The space station floated in the darkness between two distant stars. It was called Station, and it was home to many different beings from many different worlds. Humans, aliens, and creatures of all kinds lived and worked there together. But in one small corner of this station, something special was happening. Stepped off the transport shuttle with her single bag over her shoulder. She was 26 years old, with dark hair that fell past her shoulders and eyes that always seemed to be smiling. She was not tall, not strong, not loud. She was quiet and gentle, the kind of person who noticed small things that others missed. She had come to Station for one reason. She was going to be a caretaker at the nursery, but this was not a nursery for human children. This was a nursery for the... There were a species that looked like great lions. They walked on 4 legs and had thick fur that changed color with their moods. Their eyes glowed softly in the dark. They were proud warriors, feared across many star systems. But even warriors had children, and those children needed care. Walked through the station's long hallways until she reached a large door. A sign above it read, "Nursery, authorized personnel only." She took a deep breath and pressed her hand against the scanner. The door opened, and she stepped inside. The nursery was warm and filled with soft light. The floors were covered with thick mats, and there were climbing structures everywhere. And there, in the middle of the room, were the cubs. There were 7 of them. They were small, about the size of large dogs with big paws and fluffy tails. Their fur was different colors, some gold, some silver, some dark brown. When they saw Enter, they all stopped what they were doing and stared at her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the largest cub, one with golden fur and bright amber eyes, walked forward slowly. He sniffed the air, his nose twitching. The other cubs watched him carefully. Did not move. She did not speak. She simply knelt down on the floor, making herself small and unthreatening. She had read everything she could about them before coming here. She knew that they valued respect and patience. The golden cub came closer. He circled around her once, then twice. Then he sat down in front of her and tilted his head to one side. "Hello," said softly. "My name is, I am going to take care of you." The cub blinked. Then slowly, he leaned forward and pressed his nose against her hand. Behind her heard a deep voice, "Interesting." She turned to see a large standing in the doorway. He was massive, with dark fur and scars across his face. His eyes were old and wise. This was Elder, the leader of the families on the station. "You are the human caretaker," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, Elder," replied, bowing her head respectfully. Elder walked into the room slowly. The cubs immediately ran to him, rubbing against his legs and making happy sounds, but the golden cub stayed near. "My people did not want a human here," Elder said. "We are proud. We take care of our own, but there are not enough on this station, and the cubs need someone during the day cycles." "I understand," said. "Do you?" Elder's eyes narrowed. "Humans are soft, weak, you break easily. The cubs are young, but they are still, they have claws, they have teeth, they play rough." "I am not afraid," said calmly. Elder studied her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We will see, little human, we will see." He turned and walked out of the nursery, leaving alone with the cubs. The golden cub was still sitting beside her. He looked up at her with his bright eyes and made a small sound, almost like a question. "That is," said a voice. Looked up to see another entering the room. This one was female with silver fur and kind eyes. "He is the oldest of this group, the leader in his own way. I am Myra. I will help you learn your duties." "Thank you," said. Myra nodded. "The elder is hard, but he is not wrong. Many do not trust humans. They think you are too different, too fragile. You will have to prove yourself." "I will," said with quiet determination. The first day was hard. The cubs were curious but they were also wild. They ran and jumped and wrestled with each other. More than once got knocked over. More than once small claws accidentally scratched her arms. But she never complained. She never raised her voice. She was patient and calm no matter what happened. When the cubs got hungry, she prepared their food with careful attention. When they got tired, she sang soft songs that her grandmother had taught her long ago. The cubs would gather around her, their ears twitching, listening to the strange human sounds. The golden cub was always the closest. He watched with intelligent eyes, as if he was trying to understand this strange creature that had come into his world. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Slowly, things began to change. The cubs started to trust. They would run to her when she arrived each morning, their tails wagging with excitement. They would bring her their favorite toys and beg her to play. They would curl up around her during rest time, their warm bodies pressed against hers. Even Elder began to soften. He would come to the nursery sometimes and watch work. He never said anything nice directly, but noticed that his eyes were less cold than before. "You have done well, human," Myra told her one day. "The cubs love you." Smiled, "I love them too." And it was true. These little alien cubs had become her family. In this cold station, so far from Earth, she had found warmth and belonging. She did not know that her happiness was about to be shattered. Far away, across the stars, someone was about to break her heart. And when that happened, the cubs would show everyone just how much they loved their human back. But that is a story for another time. For now was happy, she was home. 6 months had passed since first arrived at station. She had grown to love her life there. Every morning she would wake up in her small room, eat a simple breakfast, and then walk to the nursery with a smile on her face. But there was something else that made her smile, someone else. His name was back on Earth in the city of. He was tall and handsome, with a bright smile and a voice like warm honey. Had known him since they were children. They had grown up together, played together, and fallen in love together. Before left for space, had asked her to marry him. She had said yes with tears of joy in her eyes. They made a promise to each other. She would work at the station for 2 years, save enough money for their future, and then return home. They would get married and start a family. Every week, they would send messages to each other across the vast distance of space. Would tell her about his work at the shipping company. He would tell her about the weather, about their friends, about the little restaurant where they had their first date. Would tell him about the cubs, about the station, about how much she missed him. "I love you," he would say at the end of every message. "I love you too," she would reply. "Wait for me." Always, he would promise. Believed him. She trusted him completely. Every night before she went to sleep, she would look at the small photo of them together that she kept beside her bed. In the photo, they were smiling, their arms around each other. They looked so happy. On this particular morning, woke up feeling especially good. It was the anniversary of the day had proposed. She had recorded a special message for him, telling him how much she loved him and how excited she was to come home and be his wife. She went to the nursery with a light heart. The cubs were happy to see her, as always, ran to her immediately, pressing his golden head against her leg. "Good morning, my little ones," she said, kneeling down to hug them. "Today is a special day for me. 1 more year and I will go home to someone very special." The cubs did not understand her words, but they felt her happiness. They played with extra energy that day, making laugh with their silly games. When her shift ended, returned to her room, she checked her communication device, expecting to see a message from. Maybe he had sent flowers through the station's delivery service, like he did last year. Maybe he had recorded a beautiful message for her. There was a message waiting, but it was not what she expected. Sat down on her bed and pressed play. His face appeared on the screen, but something was wrong. He was not smiling. His eyes looked away from the camera, unable to meet her gaze even through the recording. He began, his voice was heavy. "I do not know how to say this. I have tried to write this message many times. I have deleted it many times, but I cannot keep lying to you. His heart began to beat faster. A cold feeling spread through her chest. "I have met someone else," continued. "Her name is, she works at my company. We have been together for 3 months now." The room seemed to spin around. She could not breathe. "I am sorry," said. "I did not plan for this to happen, but being apart for so long, it was too hard. Was there and you were so far away. I know this is wrong. I know I promised you. But I cannot marry you. I am going to marry." Tears began to fall down his face. She could not stop them. "Please do not hate me," said. "I did love you. Part of me still does, but it is over now. I am sorry. I hope you can find happiness out there in the stars. Goodbye." The message ended. The screen went dark. Sat there in silence. The tears kept falling, but she made no sound. She could not scream. She could not sob. The pain was too big for noise. It filled her entire body, crushing her from the inside. She looked at the photo beside her bed. The smiling faces now looked like strangers. The happiness in that picture was a lie. It had always been a lie. With shaking hands, she turned the photo face down. 3 months. He had been with another woman for 3 months. All those messages where he said, "I love you," they were all lies. Every "I miss you" was fake. Every "I cannot wait to hold you again" meant nothing. She had given him everything, her heart, her trust, her future, and he had thrown it all away. Did not sleep that night. She sat on her bed, staring at the wall, feeling empty. The tears dried on her face, but the pain remained. When morning came, she had to go to work. She had to take care of the cubs. They needed her. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her face was pale. She looked like a ghost of herself. She tried to smile. The smile looked broken. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "The cubs need you. You cannot fall apart." She washed her face with cold water. She put on her work clothes. She took a deep breath and walked out of her room. The hallways of the station were busy with the morning rush. People and aliens walked past her, going about their daily lives. No one noticed the small human woman with the red eyes. No one knew that her world had just ended. Walked slowly toward the nursery. Each step felt heavy, like she was walking through deep water. Her mind kept replaying words. "I have met someone else. I cannot marry you. Goodbye." She reached the nursery door. She stood there for a moment, trying to gather her strength. She had to be strong for the cubs. She could not let them see her broken. But as she pressed her hand against the scanner and the door opened, she felt a single tear escape from her eye, then another, and another. She could not stop them. She walked into the nursery with silent tears running down her face. She tried to smile, but it did not work. Her lips trembled. Her shoulders shook. The cubs were playing in the middle of the room. When they heard the door open, they turned to look. And they saw their human crying. Was the first to move. He ran toward, his golden fur bristling. He sniffed her face, smelling the salt of her tears. His bright eyes widened with concern. The other cubs followed. They surrounded, pressing against her legs, whimpering softly. They could feel her pain. They could smell her sadness. Fell to her knees. She could not stand anymore. The cubs gathered around her, their small bodies warm and soft. They did not understand what had happened. They only knew that their human was hurt. And somewhere deep inside them, something began to stir. An ancient instinct passed down through countless generations of warriors. Their human was in pain. Someone had hurt their human. And the do not forgive those who hurt their family. Knelt on the nursery floor, surrounded by 7 small cubs. Her tears fell silently, dropping onto the soft mats below. She did not sob. She did not wail. She simply cried without making a sound, as if the pain inside her was too deep for noise. Pressed his head against her chest. He could feel her heart beating fast and hard. He could smell something wrong in her scent, a bitter, sad smell that he had never noticed on her before. It made his fur stand up and his ears flatten against his head. The other cubs whimpered and circled around her. They did not understand what was happening, but they knew something was very wrong. Their human, their warm and gentle caretaker was broken. A small cub with silver fur, the one they called, climbed into his lap. She was the smallest of the group, born weak and often sick. Had spent many nights caring for her, feeding her special medicine and keeping her warm. Now wanted to return that kindness. She curled up tight and pressed her small body against the stomach, trying to give warmth back. Wrapped her arms around the cubs. She held them close as the tears continued to fall. In her mind, she kept seeing his face. She kept hearing his words. I have met someone else. How could he do this to her? How could he throw away everything they had? All those years, all those memories, all those promises, did they mean nothing? She thought about the day he proposed. It was sunset at the beach near her grandmother's house. The sky was painted in orange and pink. Had gotten down on one knee and pulled out a small ring. His hands were shaking. He had said, "You are my best friend. You are my everything. Will you marry me?" She had cried then too, but those were tears of joy. Those tears felt like sunshine and flowers. These tears felt like ice and broken glass. Time passed, did not know how long. The cubs stayed with her, never leaving her side. They took turns climbing onto her lap, licking her hands, nuzzling her face. They were trying to comfort her in the only way they knew how. Eventually, took a deep breath. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and tried to stand up. Her legs were weak and shaky, but she managed to get to her feet. I am sorry, she whispered to the cubs. I should not cry in front of you. You are just bobbies. You should not see me like this. Tilted his head and made a soft sound. It almost sounded like he was saying, "It is okay." Walked to the corner of the room where she kept her supplies. She splashed water on her face and tried to make herself look normal, but her eyes were still red. Her face was still pale. She looked like someone who had lost a great battle. The morning passed slowly. Tried to do her work, but her heart was not in it. She prepared food for the cubs, but her hands moved automatically, without thought. She played games with them, but she could not smile. She read them stories, but her voice was flat and empty. The cubs noticed. They were young, but they were not stupid. They watched their human with worried eyes. They refused to leave her side, following her around the nursery like little shadows. Around midday, Myra came to visit. The silver-furred stopped in the doorway when she saw his face. What happened? Myra asked, her voice filled with concern. Shook her head. It is nothing, I am fine. You are not fine, Myra said firmly. I can smell your pain from here. Tell me what happened. Hesitated. She did not want to talk about it. She did not want to say the words out loud because saying them would make it real. But Myra's kind eyes were hard to resist. My partner said slowly. The man I was going to marry, he has chosen someone else. Myra's eyes widened, then they narrowed with anger. He broke his promise to you. Yes. Myra made a low, growling sound in her throat. In culture, breaking such a promise is a great dishonor. A who does this would be cast out from their pride. They would live alone, without family, for the rest of their days. Humans are different, said quietly. We just move on. That is foolish, Myra said. Promises should mean something. Love should mean something. Felt fresh tears building in her eyes. I thought it did. I was wrong. Myra walked over and placed a large paw on his shoulder. The touch was gentle, careful not to scratch with her claws. You are not wrong to believe in love, Myra said. He is wrong for betraying it. Do not let his weakness make you doubt your own heart. Nodded, but she could not speak. The tears were falling again. The cubs had been listening. They did not understand all the words, but they understood enough. Someone had hurt their human. Someone far away had made her cry. Someone had broken something important. Walked over to and stood tall. For a cub, he was already impressive. His golden fur seemed to glow in the nursery lights. His amber eyes burned with an emotion that looked almost like anger. He opened his mouth and made a sound. It was not quite a roar, he was too young for that, but it was loud and fierce, filled with feeling. The other cubs joined in, with her silver fur, with his dark brown coat, and little, all of them raised their voices together. The nursery filled with the sound of small but determined growls. Myra watched with surprise. "They are defending you," she said. "They are declaring you as one of their own." Looked at the cubs through her tears. These little creatures, these bobbies who she had fed and cleaned and cared for, they were trying to protect her. In their own small way, they were standing up for her. For the first time that day, felt something other than pain. She felt warmth. She felt love. She knelt down and opened her arms. The cubs rushed to her, piling on top of each other in their hurry to reach her. They licked her face, cleaning away her tears. They pressed against her, sharing their warmth. "Thank you," whispered. "Thank you, my little ones." Myra smiled softly. "The cubs have chosen you," she said. "In culture, that means everything. You are not just their caretaker anymore. You are their family." Held the cubs close. Her heart was still broken, but somehow it did not hurt quite as much. These small creatures had given her something that had taken away. They had given her belonging. But the cubs were not finished. Their protective instincts had been awakened. Someone had hurt their human and they wanted to know who. They wanted answers. And when a wants answers, they do not stay quiet. They roar. The sound started small. It began in his chest, a deep rumbling that vibrated through his golden fur. His eyes, usually bright with playfulness, now burned with something fierce and protective. He stood in front of like a tiny guardian, his body tense and ready. Then he opened his mouth and roared. It was not the roar of an adult. He was too young for that. But it was loud and full of emotion. It echoed off the walls of the nursery, filling every corner of the room. "Who hurt our human?" That was what the roar meant. Myra understood it immediately. Her silver fur bristled with surprise. Cubs did not make that sound. That was the roar of protection, the roar that adults used when their family was in danger. For a cub to make, it was almost unheard of. But was not alone. One by one, the other cubs joined him. The small silver cub stood on shaky legs and added her voice to the sound. She was weak and often sick, but in that moment she seemed strong. Her small roar was high and thin, but it was filled with the same fierce love. Came next. His dark brown fur made him look like a shadow, and his roar was deep for a cub his age. He pressed against side, standing shoulder to shoulder with his friend. And the twin cubs with matching gray fur roared together. Their voices blended into one, rising and falling like music. The one with orange and white spots stamped her paws and growled. And Little, the youngest of them all, squeaked out the tiniest roar anyone had ever heard. 7 cubs standing in a line, all roaring together. The sound filled the nursery. It traveled through the walls. It echoed down the hallways of station. People stopped and stared. Aliens turned their heads in confusion. What was that noise? What was happening in the nursery? Watched the cubs with wide, tear-filled eyes. She could not believe what she was seeing. These little ones, who she had cared for so gently, were rising up to defend her. They did not understand everything that had happened. They only knew that their human was hurt, and they would not accept it. "Who hurt our human?" their roars seemed to ask. "Tell us, and we will make them pay." Myra stepped back, her expression filled with wonder. "This is remarkable," she whispered. "I have never seen cubs bond so deeply with anyone outside their pride, let alone a human." The roaring continued for several minutes. The cubs circled around, never leaving her side. They bumped against her with their heads, rubbed their bodies against her legs, and kept making their fierce sounds. Then the nursery door opened. Elder stood in the doorway. His massive form blocked most of the light from the hallway. His face was hard to read, but his eyes were wide with surprise. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. The cubs fell silent. They turned to face the elder, but they did not move away from. Instead, they formed a circle around her, as if protecting her from the large adult. Stepped forward. He was so small compared to elder, barely reaching the elder's knee, but he did not show fear. He looked up at the great leader and made his sound again. It was not a full roar this time. It was a statement, a declaration. In the language of it meant something very important. She is ours, she is Pack. Someone hurt her, we demand justice. Elder stared at the little golden cub for a long moment. Then he really looked at her. He saw her red eyes. He saw her tear-stained face. He saw the pain she was trying so hard to hide. "What happened?" he asked. His voice was softer now, less harsh. Myra spoke up. Her promised mate back on the human world. He has betrayed her. He has chosen another. Elder's eyes narrowed. A low growl rumbled in his throat. He broke his word, his sacred promise. "Yes, Elder." The Great was silent for a moment. Then he walked forward, his heavy steps making the floor shake slightly. The cubs tensed, ready to defend their human if needed. But Elder did not approach with anger. He approached with something else entirely. He stopped in front of and lowered his great head until his eyes were level with hers. "In all my years," he said slowly, "I have seen many things. I have seen battles and victories. I have seen betrayals and losses. But I have never seen cubs rise up like this. I have never seen them claim an outsider as their own." Trembled but did not look away. "They are good cubs," she whispered. "They have kind hearts." "They have warrior hearts," Elder corrected. "And warrior hearts do not bond lightly. They have chosen you, human. Do you understand what that means?" Shook her head. "It means you are family," Elder said. "Not just to the cubs, but to all of us. When a claims someone as Pack, that bond is sacred. It cannot be broken by distance or time. It is forever." Fresh tears spilled down his face, but these were not tears of pain. These were something else. "I do not know what to say," she whispered. "Say nothing," Elder replied. "Words are cheap. Humans use too many of them. Actions are what matter, and your actions have spoken clearly. You have cared for these cubs with love and patience. You have treated them like your own children. Now they are returning that love." He straightened up and looked around the nursery at the 7 cubs who still surrounded protectively. "You have done well, little ones," he said to them. "You have acted with honor. Your parents would be proud." Puffed out his chest with pride. The other cubs wagged their tails and made happy sounds. The tension in the room began to fade. But Elder was not finished. "The one who hurt you," he said too. "If he were here on this station, my people would deal with him. We would show him what happens to those who break sacred promises. But he is far away, beyond our reach." "It is okay," said. "I do not want revenge, I just want." She stopped, unsure of what she wanted. Elder nodded slowly. "You want to heal, you want the pain to stop, you want to feel whole again." "Yes," whispered. "Then stay with us," Elder said. "Stay with your cubs, let them help you heal. They have a saying, a broken heart can only be mended by love. You have love here, human, more than you know." Looked at the cubs around her, was pressing against her leg, purring softly, had climbed back into her lap. The others were gathered close, their warm bodies a comfort. She was far from Earth, far from everything she had known. The man she loved had betrayed her. Her dreams of marriage and family were gone. But here, in this strange place among these fierce alien creatures, she had found something unexpected. She had found a new family, a family that would protect her, a family that would love her, a family that would never let her fall. For the first time since receiving his message, smiled. It was small and fragile, but it was real. The cubs saw the smile and roared again, but this time it was a roar of joy. Their human was going to be okay. News spread quickly through station. By evening, everyone had heard the story. The human caretaker had been betrayed by her promised mate. The cubs had risen up to defend her. Elder himself had witnessed it. Many were surprised. Humans and did not usually form such deep bonds. The two species were too different. Humans were soft and emotional, were fierce and proud. They lived in different worlds even when they shared the same space. But the cubs had broken all the rules. They had claimed a human as family, and in doing so, they had changed everything. That night, Elder called a gathering. All the on-station came together in the Great Hall, a large room used for important ceremonies. There were about 30 of them, adults and elders of various ages. Their eyes glowed in the dim light, and their fur shimmered in colors of gold, silver, brown, and gray. Was asked to attend. She stood nervously at the edge of the crowd, unsure of why she was there. Myra stood beside her, a comforting presence. "Do not be afraid," Myra whispered. "This is a good thing." "What is happening?" asked. Before Myra could answer, Elder stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. "My people," the elder began, his deep voice filling the hall. "Today, something special happened. Something I have not seen in all my many years. Our cubs, the young ones in the nursery, made a claim. They declared a human as one of our own." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some looked surprised, others looked doubtful, a few looked angry. "This is unusual," Elder continued. "I know many of you have questions. I know some of you disagree. Humans are not. They do not share our blood, our history, or our traditions. How can one of them be family?" He paused and looked around the room. "But I ask you to think about what family truly means. Is it only about blood? Is it only about being born into the same pride? Or is it something more?" The crowd was silent, listening carefully. "When I first met this human," Elder said, gesturing toward, "I did not trust her. I thought she was weak. I thought she would fail. I gave her a hard task caring for our most precious treasure, our cubs. I expected her to give up." He shook his great head slowly. "I was wrong." Felt her cheeks grow warm. She did not know where to look. "This human," Elder continued, "showed patience when the cubs were wild. She showed gentleness when they were scared. She showed love when they needed comfort. She treated them not as a job but as her own children. And they felt it. They knew it. That is why they claimed her." He turned to face directly. "Of Earth," he said formally, "the cubs have spoken. They have declared you as pack. As their leader, I must now ask the pride, do we accept this claim?" The crowd stirred. This was unexpected. Usually, the elder made decisions alone. Asking the pride to vote was rare and significant. An old female stepped forward. Her fur was silver with age and her eyes were wise. "I have watched this human from afar," she said. "I have seen how she cares for the young ones. She is gentle but strong. I say we accept her." Another, a large male with scars from many battles, nodded his head. "My cub is in that nursery," he said. "He was afraid of everything before she came. Now he is brave and happy. She has given him something I could not. I accept her." One by one, they spoke. Some shared stories of how their cubs had changed under care. Others spoke of watching her work from the shadows. A few remained silent, but none spoke against her. When the last voice faded, Elder raised his head. "It is decided," he declared. "Of Earth, from this day forward, you are pride bonded. You are family to the of station. Our enemies are your enemies. Our home is your home. Our love is your love. This bond can never be broken." The in the crowd raised their heads and roared. The sound was massive, shaking the walls of the great hall. It was a sound of welcome, of acceptance, of fierce joy. Stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. She could not believe what was happening. These proud, fierce creatures, they were accepting her. They were calling her family. The 7 cubs burst through the crowd and ran too. They jumped on her, licking her face and making happy sounds. Climbed up and perched on her shoulder, his golden tail wrapped around her neck. "You are ours now," he seemed to say, "forever." Laughed through her tears. She hugged the cubs close, feeling their warmth surround her. Myra approached with a smile. "Welcome to the Pride, sister." "Thank you," whispered. "Thank you so much." The celebration continued late into the night. They shared food and stories. They taught some of their traditional songs, laughing gently at her attempts to make the growling sounds. The cubs performed a clumsy dance they had invented, making everyone smile. For the first time since Message felt truly happy. Not just okay, not just surviving, but genuinely happy. The pain was still there, somewhere deep inside, but it was getting smaller. It was being pushed out by something bigger and stronger. Love, true love, the kind that does not betray, the kind that does not lie, the kind that stays. Later, when the celebration was over and the station grew quiet, returned to the nursery. The cubs were tired but refused to leave her side. They curled up together in a big pile in the corner of the room, their warm bodies pressed close. Lay down among them, rested his head on her chest, curled up against her side. The others surrounded her, creating a nest of fur and warmth. She looked up at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. 2 days ago, she had received a message that shattered her heart. She had thought her life was over. She had thought she would never feel loved again. But she was wrong. Love had found her in the strangest place. It had come not from a man who promised forever and lied, but from 7 small cubs who roared for her. It had come from a proud elder who swallowed his doubts and opened his heart. It had come from an entire pride of fierce warriors who called a soft, small human their family. "Thank you," whispered to the sleeping cubs. "Thank you for saving me." Stirred slightly and made a small sound in his sleep. It sounded almost like words. "Always." Smiled and closed her eyes. Outside the station, the stars burned bright and eternal. Somewhere far away on a planet called Earth, a man named was living his new life with his new love. He had forgotten his promises. He had forgotten his honor. But did not think about him anymore. He did not matter. He was her past. These cubs, this pride, this strange and wonderful family, they were her future. And as she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by warmth and love, she knew one thing for certain. She was exactly where she was meant to be. She was home,